The following is a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about them Cowboys?
Yeah!
Go Cowboys!
Let's go, baby!
Are you ready for a break?
Yes.
Are you ready for a break?
Absolutely.
Ready for a break?
Yeah, and so much for that.
It's time for The Break on DallasCowboys.com.
We were on the break!
With Ambar Garcia, Brian Broaddus, Nick Harris, and Derek Eagleton.
It is Wednesday, September 11th, 2024, Season 20, Episode number 27. Welcome to the latest edition of The Break. We're live from the SWBC Mortgage Studios at The Star. We are presented by LG. LG is the world's #1 OLED TV brand for 11 years and counting. See why at lg.com/OLED Evo. We start the day today doing a little bit of remembering. Today is 9/11. And it's obviously a day to remember for our country, the 23rd anniversary of the tragedies that happened there in New York and in D.C. I want to go around the table and just kind of get a perspective of where were you on that day. I was at Valley Ranch working, and I remember that as it started to unfold, I was actually walking back to the back. There was an area in the back of Valley Ranch, security area. There's our old security guard, Jake.
Jake Jacobs.
Everybody knew Jake, right? Yeah. Jake was he was an older guy, but really, really nice guy. And so I get back to the back, and he's like, "Hey, you're seeing what's going on?" And so I start watching this with him. And at that point, we had no idea what it was. We just knew that there'd been a plane had flown into a building, and then it all started to happen. And then we started getting the reports, and it was just amazement. It was fear. It was something that people in America, at least people in my age, had never really lived through. And so it was a very, very unsettling time. And then you start trying to call family, and I'm trying to call my wife, and she's in downtown Dallas. And so downtown metropolitan areas were all starting to get worried, like, are there planes heading toward our buildings? And so you're having those kinds of conversations. So it was a pretty weird, tough day, and obviously we weren't in New York, so didn't experience some of the things that those folks experienced, obviously. But I'll go around the table. Amber, what was your day like that day? Where were you?
I was still living in Dominican Republic. I remember we got out of school around 1 over there. So got home. I haven't done the math to remember exactly how old I was, but I must have been around 9 or 10, something like that. And I remember getting home and turning on the TV, and it was just showing on TV. You saw the towers, the Twin Towers. And then at that age, I don't think I ever truly processed what was actually happening. But all you knew, even at that age, it was, this is bad. Like, you just had that feeling of like, this is terrible. This is really, really bad. But again, you don't understand the magnitude of it and what it means. At the time, I did have a sister. She was a half-sister. I still have a half-sister. I still have her. But she was living in New York. And luckily, fortunately, she was not near all of that. But I remember making the connection. But all that to say is, like, it wasn't just in the U.S. type of news. This is something that hit worldwide. And you did see from everywhere in the world when this was happening, what it was happening, and just feeling of just being really, really scared, even though I was on an island completely separate from New York. But it was just, it's terrible. And now understanding as you got older what actually happened and what it meant, it's horrifying.
Nick?
Yeah, I had the unique perspective, I think, from my generation, because I was alive, but I was not really conscious whenever this happened. I was barely 1 year old, but I was actually just talking about it with my mom not too long ago about like where I was, how the day unfolded, and it was my dad that was the one who was like, it's not that big of a deal, and then the second plane hit, and it was like, okay, it might be that big of a deal. And so growing up in the time following 9/11, I think my generation again has that unique perspective of that is our reality. That was always our reality. And I think whenever I talk to older generations and try to understand, the impact of what that moment meant at that point in their lives, there was a completely different life before that, from my understanding. And then growing up with this current understanding of my current life, I look at events such as the Boston Marathon or, things of that nature. But understanding that 9/11 is a big reason why we have the national security that we do today. It's a big reason why, a lot of things were happening in my world growing up as a child. But it's always fascinated me from the perspective of the impact that it had on not only society in the United States, but society around the world.
Yeah, I had a different perspective. Like you, Derek, I was at Valley Ranch. I was working in the pro scouting department for the Cowboys. And my office was right on the outside of Larry Lacewell, who was the boss of the personnel staff of us at that time. And Lace popped in and said, he walked in and he said, "Hey, did you hear a plane hit the World Trade Center?" And I said, "No." And so we kind of talking about it. He goes, "Yeah." And I was thinking it was like a private plane.
Yeah.
I was thinking it may be a propeller plane, maybe a jet, something got off course and hit the World Trade Center, and here we are. He's like, "No, an airliner." And I'm like, "What?" And so we go back to the draft room and we turn it on where our screens were. We turn that thing on. And then the second plane hit. And now we're all looking at each other like, "Oh my gosh."
Yeah.
What? And then when that plane hit the Pentagon, we were all, then Chris Hall, I remember, who's, college scouting coordinator, goes, "We're under attack. Our country is now under attack." And there was that moment where you're trying to just take it all in. And we immediately jumped on the phone. And this is 2001, so you really don't have great communication. We're trying to find our scouts. These airliners are now hitting buildings and going down and hitting Pentagon and going down in field. All this stuff is happening. Matter of fact, the Los Angeles Kings lost 2 scouts in the Pennsylvania crash or the hijacking. And we just immediately went into mode of trying to locate where our guys were. We're trying.
Which, by the way, for those who don't know, scouts are flying all around because they got games they're going to see. They're going to see.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That the Los Angeles Kings scouts were in Boston, looking, and they were flying back to the coast to, they were on their scouting trip, and Ace Bailey and Mark Beavis lost their lives in Pennsylvania on that flight and leaving out of Boston, and so it was terrifying because you didn't know. I mean, the news was just so it was so just jumbled, and you didn't, and you're just kind of like, my gosh, what's happening? And so we went into, okay, let's try and identify where our guys are. Let's make sure everybody. And once we found everybody, but then as scouts, they're all over the country. Some of them are flying, some of them are driving, and now you're thinking about getting everybody home because after that, transportation was shut down. And it's a big unknown. And I remember talking to Sean Payton after Sean was working with the New York Giants, and he remembers being at practice. And if you look at the practice field at the Meadowlands, the old stadium, you could see what was going on in the city, and they're thinking, and here they are,
They're just seeing smoke at this point.
They're seeing smoke and all that. And Sean tells a story about the eeriest thing was a couple of days later, of all the cars that were parked in the parking lot at Giant Stadium. People take public transportation to get into the city. And those were cars of folks that never came back for their cars.
Wow.
So, at a level, you're getting ready for a game, but that now it's all like, why? Why? I mean, we always in the NFL, the Kennedy assassination in '63 was something that the league had to make a determination they're going to play games, and we didn't play games. Like, we were getting ready for the Lions that day or that week, and they postponed the game. But it was terrifying. It really was, because there was so much unknown, and the news was coming in, and it was so just here and there and here, and you just didn't know why.
And you didn't know what to believe.
You didn't know what
you
to
had conflicting reports on some news
It was
stations versus
crazy.
others because it was all coming in real time. And you're watching actual footage of what's happening.
Yeah.
So you're seeing things and like, did I just see what I thought I saw?
Yeah.
Like it was very, very jarring and just it was very different, obviously, than anything we'd ever experienced.
Yeah, it just immediately, like I said, when that plane hit the Pentagon, that was when the moment that I went, my gosh,
This is war.
Our country is now being attacked.
Yeah.
You know, they're using our transportation system against us here.
Yeah.
And so, that's that was the day, and you know, and then after, and what was so strange is to walk outside that night. And I used to live in an area where the flight path, where planes were either Dallas Love Field or DFW, and nothing in the sky.
Yeah, that's
nothing,
eerie.
nothing in the sky. The whole. I was out walking and I'm thinking, man, there are usually planes, flying in, but that was tough. That was a tough few days there.
A quick other story. One of our very own Larry Wansley, and you guys can get to know him in one of the Deep Blue documentaries that we did, Close to the Vest. But Larry, he started with team security with the Cowboys security back in the day, and after
Tex Ram days.
9/11 happened, I mean, he was one of the ones that started implementing and creating what it is now today known as TSA. So when you're getting your shoes off and all that, get mad at Larry.
Was he with American Airlines
Yeah.
on 9/11? He was, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
and then
he was head of security, right?
Yes, and then he was one of the ones that was part of creating all of it. I mean, if you ever get to meet Larry, he has
He's a remarkable
so
man.
many stories.
What,
but that is-
CIA and
oh my God,
he's
Used to be a
done
doctor.
some things.
undercover.
Yeah.
He can't tell you all the stories.
Yeah,
He
some
wrote a
crazy
book.
stories.
He wrote a book called Mandrake, which was his code
Right.
name for his CIA stuff. It's a fascinating book, and having lunch with him is always interesting. You're asking a lot more questions than he's asking you,
And you want to just sit there and just take it all
and
in.
you take it all in. But you talk about TSA. Larry's also real good at helping you get the pass to get through all that stuff. too.
Noted.
Well, that was we certainly want to take this day to
Yeah.
remember, because there were lots of people who lost loved ones, and those people still to this day obviously deal with that in this day. So we want to be respectful of that, and that's why I wanted to take this time to remember a little bit and tell those folks we're still thinking about them, and we're still thinking about their loved ones who were lost on that day. Let's take our first break. When we come back, we'll jump in and talk a little bit of football. We'll get back on course here. We'll be back. DallasCowboys.com radio.
Todd thought it would be secure to jog in the cheetah savanna. Todd believed the big cat repellent he bought online was reliable. And now, Todd is trying to be faster than this cheetah that can run 80 miles per hour. But the good news is, Todd has AT&T 5G that is fast, reliable, and secure. And he learned the best thing to do is stop running and toss her the backpack with the beef stew. AT&T 5G. Fast, reliable, secure.
5G requires compatible plan and device. 5G may not be available in your area. See att.com/5G for you for details.
If you can't be at the stadium, there's no better way to watch your Cowboys than on an LG OLED Evo TV. That's because everything you see is more lifelike. Every play, every hit. I mean, you might as well be on the sidelines. That's how clear it is. It's all thanks to LG's legendary technology. Perfect black, over 8.3 million self-lit pixels. No one comes close. LG OLED Evo is the best TV in the game for a reason. See for yourself at lg.com/OLED Evo.
Don't put off getting your oil change, Dallas. Take 5 Oil Change, a proud partner of the Cowboys, is faster than you think. There's no appointment needed and no waiting room. Yep, you heard that correctly. Take 5 is so fast, you don't even have to get out of your car. You can take advantage of Take 5's fast, friendly, and simple service at any of their locations across the Dallas area. And remember, at Take 5, you stay in your car because they're faster than you think. Take 5, the official oil change of the Dallas Cowboys.
If you shout, "How about them Cowboys?" you have that undeniable passion that's the heart of Cowboys Nation. And if you like to drink Dr. Pepper, you love the unique blend of its 23 flavors. Together, your one-of-a-kind fandom paired with the one-of-a-kind taste of a delicious ice-cold Dr. Pepper is the game day lineup that can't be beat. Better yet, gather your Cowboys and Dr. Pepper fan friends to watch the next game and crack open a delicious ice-cold Dr. Pepper for everyone. The wins will be even tastier. It's a pepper thing.
Life doesn't stop when the economy is uncertain. The market might not care you have a wedding to plan. or a kid to put through school. And inflation doesn't know you've got a family to feed. But Bank of America does, and is here to help. With digital tools to help you save and local experts nearby, you can keep life moving forward the way you need it to. Bank of America. What would you like the power to do? Learn more at bankofamerica.com. Bank of America N.A., member FDIC, equal credit opportunity lender.
Back to the break.
LG OLED Evo is the best TV in the game, but don't take our word for it. Digital Trends said the LG OLED G4 has the best picture quality they've ever seen. See it for yourself at lg.com/OLED Evo.
Welcome back. It is the second segment of the break. We're live from SWBC Mortgage Studios. At the start of the segment, brought to you by blockchain.com. All right, here we go. Let's talk about Cowboys defense versus the New Orleans offense. Brian, I want you to start first with their quarterback. Obviously, they put up a ton of points last week. His stat line, 19 of 23, 83% completion rate, 200 yards, 3 touchdowns, a 142.5 rating. Highly efficient, obviously, especially with attempts that traveled less than 10 yards. I read that he was 13 of 13
Didn't miss.
for those dink and dunk type throws. But when you're doing that effectively, you can move the ball down the field. How do you assess his abilities relative to who they were playing versus how well he played?
Yeah, and I think that you have to give him some credit for how well he played. Clint Kubiak, the coordinator, there's a new kind of young kid group that's coming from the McVay, Shanahan, and they're infiltrating all these other teams. So you kind of see a lot of movement, a lot of motion, things to try and make it easy on the quarterback. And I think that Clint called a really nice game for.
Is this Gary's kid?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and his brother works in your scouting department here. So so the Kubiak's a good football family, Texas A&M. I've known Gary for a long time, and so
he used to be a quarterback himself, right?
Backup quarterback to John Elway for like 12 years, 13 years. Had a heck of a career doing that. And when he had to play, they actually won games. It was kind of he's got some like Cooper Rush to him, He kind of like oh my God, he's playing, and then next thing you win the game. So, but these young coordinators have ways of moving the football, being creative with how they do it. They have motion in mind. They have ideas of trying to create mismatches, and that's really what Derek Carr needed. He needed somebody to help him along. And Derek Carr is capable of throwing the ball down the field. The first touchdown of the game was a post strike, that Shaheed caught. It was a beautiful throw in a pocket that got really muddy. But Carolina did not make him feel uncomfortable at all in this game. And I think that's something that Dallas will do. Dallas will make him feel. Mike Zimmer will make him feel uncomfortable. Now, the things you have to worry about a little bit is because what they can do with Alvin Kamara and running the football. This offensive line did a pretty good job coming off the football, getting into Carolina's guy. Man, there seemed like there was a lot of space watching the tape. Kamara was averaging about 5.5 a carry there, and it just seemed like that every time that Carolina was facing the run, it was either a light box or they got blown off the ball. But those are the things that help Derek Carr. And if he doesn't have to make every throw, he could be the guy that you saw, very accurate, doesn't miss a pass. Even Chris Olave, who I think is their best receiver, was limited in this game.
Only 2 catches.
Only 2 catches in this game. So they really, really didn't need to have the big play, but they were able to the offense did a fine job moving the football. They kicked some field goals, much like what the Cowboys did against Cleveland. But, Derek Carr, you just can't let him feel good and let him get into, we always talk about getting into a rhythm. Yeah. He got into a rhythm in this Carolina game where it was drop back, boom, ball out, drop back, ball, boom. And they played a ton of snaps underneath center. I mean, a ton of snaps. I think it was the highest one, them and the Rams were the 2 of the weekend that played all these snaps under center. So, okay, what does that do for you? Well, all of a sudden it turns into, under center, that's how they get Alvin Kamara the ball. They take the ball, they walk it to him, and then he goes. Yeah. They let the blocks develop. They don't take a shotgun and hand it to him sideways and let him go. They want to get him the ball going downhill, and so they play under center quite a bit. This will be different from what the Cowboys have seen last week with the Browns.
Real quick, when you mentioned that Dallas needs to make him uncomfortable, are you thinking making him uncomfortable is more about the disguises, which we talk so much about with Zimmer, or is it more about pressure? Okay.
Because he handled the blitzing well against Carolina. When Carolina blitzed, I think he was 8 of 10 throwing the football against the blitz. Yeah. So it was like he knew to get it out. I think Dallas, when he's going to watch the Dallas film, and as the coaches watch that film, they're a team that's going to use a screen. They got Kamara that can do that. They're going to do things to try and slow down Dallas's rush if they can. Their offensive line, like I say, they've got a rookie left tackle in Fuaga, a really good player. Loved him coming out of college. They've had some injuries at the left guard spot. Landon Young was stepping in for Lucas Patrick there. There seems to be a leg injury there, so a backup might be at left guard. Eric McCoy, the center, is a good center. I mean, solid as they come. Where they're a little bit weak is Cesar Ruiz and then Trevor Penning on that right side. There might be some things that Dallas can do when I talk about the pressure of like the movement that Dallas likes to do, the twisting, maybe the twist with the blitz behind it, maybe the linebacker through there. You know, those were the guys that were giving up some pressures to Carolina. Carolina just did not do a whole lot to affect them in the passing game, but the one sack they got, the pressures that they were able to get, that's the things you got to do with Carr, because if he's just going to sit there and just play pitch and catch all day, he could be very difficult to deal with.
Well, based on how the Cowboys defense played last week, and I get a different offense, Browns offense and the Saints offense very different.
Right.
But in my mind, I'm trying to figure out, okay, based on what they gave us on the field, the Cowboys defense, they did so good that I'm trying to figure out where would be some areas in this game that they could actually have issues with.
The Browns were compromised, but I thought Dallas's scheme, if the Browns tackles would have played in this game, I think they would have still got pressure the way that they schemed. Very early, very small sample size with what Mike could do. Mike was on the podium yesterday talking about there's things that he could do with Micah that he didn't get to. So that's encouraging, that fact. He's going to watch this tape and he's going to see a rookie left tackle that's a quality left tackle. The kid's going to be a really good player one day, but he is a rookie right now. And they left him out there, much like the Cowboys kind of left Guyton out there to see where he was at. Saints did the same thing with their guy. They said, okay, let's see how much he could really take. And he did a pretty solid job, like I say. But that right size with Ruiz and Penning, I'm just kind of looking at them and I'm seeing Carolina and it's like ball out, but there's a guy there, and where's it off of? It's off that right side. So I'm going to try if I can. I'm going to see this team will also max protect. They will keep, like we've seen Dallas in the past where they keep tight ends in and make sure that the ball gets out. I could see them doing the same thing to try and find, where's Parsons? Let's move. Let's make sure we have guys over taking care. And now it's going to be on Tank. It's going to be on Osa. It's going to be on these linebackers. You've got to be able to get some pressure. And like I keep saying, that right side to me, it would be the Cowboys left, but the Saints right side is the spot I would look at maybe attacking here.
As you look at the running backs, you mentioned Alvin Kamara.
Yeah.
Obviously, also have Jamal Williams. Talk to me about the strength of each of these backs and how do they use them? Do they use them in a perceptible way, a unique role for each one, or they just kind of interchange them?
Yeah, they interchange, but when Kamara plays, it's very noticeable. He still has those traits we've seen from him in the past. He can be very explosive. He can be powerful. He can be hard to tackle. You have to get it, bodies to him, shoulder on him, wrap him up, much like with Overshown, the way he was tackling. That's how you have to play against this guy. They'll use him in the screen package games. They'll slip him out. They'll actually put him out wide. They had 3 routes where he was running routes of like normal wide receivers routes, in cut, out cut, post route. So they'll motion him out of the backfield and then throw him the football. They like to motion him out and then throw him like the wide, almost like a wide receiver screen over there with blockers in front. So Here's a team that will go motion, and then they'll motion again behind that. So they'll you get like two sets of motion. It's not just one motion. It's a motion to get to a blocker in a position, and then it's a motion again to get the receiver behind the blocker in order to get him the football. Mm-hmm. So you have to be aware of like, okay, get ready for multiple motions, on pre-snap and things like that. But he still runs the ball effectively. He's healthy. There's been times where he hasn't been healthy. They haven't always blocked great for him. But the Carolina really did not have, I didn't think, much of an answer for when they handed the ball off. It seemed like that he was coming downhill. There was very few times where a Carolina defender was able to win and then make a play there at the line of scrimmage. So, Dallas will be a different challenge for the Saints. Just because just because of the personnel that they have, the front seven that they have. Carolina doesn't have the front seven that Dallas has, so that will be the challenge. Can these five guys up front? Can these tight ends? When you look at these tight ends as well, Foster Moreau is a guy he's their starting tight end. He's a motion guy. He's a point of attack guy. The ball goes to him in a lot of different ways, but he's a little banged up right now with a concussion, I believe. Has a head injury, so we'll see if he's available this week. But it's a team that, like I said, likes to move guys to get in position, get the ball to the ball carrier, and then let people block from that.
Taysom Hill is a guy that they kind of use as a gadget guy. Had a few plays for him last week. How do you best defend a guy like that?
Well, with him, remember with Sean Payton when the Cowboys would play Sean Payton and Taysom Hill, the one time he was a starting quarterback, and that was just kind of a mess that you're like thinking, okay, Dallas should win this game. Dak versus Taysom Hill. That should be a win for Dallas. Dallas has the better quarterback here. Yeah. The thing with Taysom Hill, there used to be what we call the wildcat. A lot of that, direct snap, power run the football. Not so much anymore. You might see Taysom Hill I think it was one snap that I saw where he took this direct snap and then ran forward for about 5 yards. But it's a lot less of, it's more of like put him in the backfield and hand him the ball.
He's an actual runner.
He's an actual runner. Yeah. They will put him in a situation where they'll take Kamara out, they'll take Williams out, and they'll put him as an actual runner, and then they'll play with Prentice as the as the fullback, and he's kind of listed as a fullback tight end guy. But you'll see a lot of that two back look, much like what Dallas did the other day. We were talking about 21 personnel. We were talking about 22 personnel. The Saints will do the same thing because they do play more with a fullback than some of the teams you traditionally face.
All right, let's talk a little bit about the offensive line.
Yeah.
You mentioned that side was a particular
the
problem.
Right side. Yeah.
If you were kind of going at this from the standpoint of where they're most vulnerable, from the standpoint of getting quick pressure, where would you think is the best point to get quick pressure? Because it does sound like they're getting rid of the ball quick.
They are.
You got to get quick pressure. Where's the best point to get quick pressure?
I think it's Ruiz, the right guard, because that puts you right on the ball. That puts you right where the quarterback is going to stand. Pinning on the right as the right tackle, you could win against him. Might be a little bit longer, but the Carolina was having some success, with some quick pressure. They weren't the threshold of the numbers like that 2.5, and they were hitting that, but they weren't going any quicker than that. Ruiz was the one that was having the problems. He's number 51. He's the right guard. He's the guy that all of a sudden you can kind of get around him, but the ball would be out. But if you somehow can hold up on the back end, with the covering the routes, press, whatever they have to do. Dallas was playing a ton of zone.
Yeah.
Maybe they'll turn around and play a little bit different, give them a little bit different look with Olave and Wilson and Shaheed in this game. Maybe they feel a little bit more comfortable covering these guys than what they were doing with the Browns. Played a little bit more zone with the Browns, maybe a little bit more man coverage here, because I think you got to get the pressure on this guy. And you mentioned get it quick, but to your question, Ruiz, the right guard, would be the point that I would attack there to get quick pressure on.
Do the corners for the Cowboys, do you think they have the ability to play man press against these types of receivers?
Yeah, I do. I think that I really do like Chris Olave, and Shaheed's a boom or bust player.
He's a downfield guy.
He is a downfield player. He's either going to have a 50-yard catch or he's going to have no catch.
Yeah.
So, and then we all know Cedric Wilson. Cedric Wilson, kind of an intermediate, not a guy with a lot of speed, but the guy's, pretty sure-handed in the way. They've used a rookie. They have a 5th-round rookie named Bub Means that plays. He had 1 target but no catch. They're trying to kind of get him incorporated in what they're doing. But a lot of 3 wide receiver look, and they like the trips. They'll put them all on one side of the field. So you have 3 receivers, so you have to deal with that. You play man coverage, you worry about the scatter where they just all, and now picking up guys. We saw that in the Packers game last year, where all of a sudden you get a trips formation scatter, and then guys are letting guys run free. I think Mike's group's a little bit more buttoned up and be able to handle that. But there should be a good matchup with Dallas's corners on this group right here.
All right, let's take our second break. When we come back, I have some questions, and I'm sure Amber has some answers for me on the Dallas defense and maybe how they're going to match up. Some of the things we saw from last week, particularly talk a little bit about Mozzie Smith and what we saw from him, and a couple other guys. We'll do it when we come back. This is DallasCowboys.com radio.
It's the official men's skincare brand of the Dallas Cowboys, Jack Black. And right now, Cowboys fans can get 15% off their $75 order. Plus, because every deal needs a playmaker, your order will include a free 5-piece skincare set and free shipping. The Jack Black Playmaker is 4 of Jack's favorites and a full-sized intense therapy lip balm. Make a play for the playmaker at getjackblack.com/Cowboys with the code CowboysVIP. That's getjackblack.com/Cowboys with the code CowboysVIP.
They say champions are remembered, but legends are never forgotten. United Ag and Turf offers a winning lineup of John Deere equipment built to tackle any challenge on and off the field. Legendary John Deere tractors, combines, residential mowers, commercial mowers, compact construction equipment, Gator utility vehicles, and a full line of golf and sports turf equipment. United Ag and Turf, the official Ag and Turf equipment supplier of the Dallas Cowboys. Visit UnitedAgAndTurf.com to find a location near you.
If you can't be at the stadium, there's no better way to watch your Cowboys than on an LG OLED Evo TV. That's because everything you see is more lifelike. Every play, every hit. I mean, you might as well be on the sidelines. That's how clear it is. It's all thanks to LG's legendary technology. Perfect black, over 8.3 million self-lit pixels. No one comes close. LG OLED Evo is the best TV in the game for a reason. See for yourself at lg.com/OLED Evo.
From the field to the festivities, Lucchese embodies the essence of luxury and tradition. Handcrafted with meticulous precision, each pair offers unmatched comfort and style. Stand tall while you're tailgating or cheering in the stands with the Dallas Cowboys collection by Lucchese. Shop the collection today at the Lucchese store at the Star in Frisco or online at lucchese.com. Lucchese, the official boot of the Dallas Cowboys and Dallas Cowboys cheerleaders.
Todd thought it would be secure to jog in the cheetah savanna. Todd believed the big cat repellent he bought online was reliable. And now, Todd is trying to be faster than this cheetah that can run 80 miles per hour. But the good news is, Todd has AT&T 5G that is fast, reliable, and secure. And he learned the best thing to do is stop running and toss her the backpack with the beef stew. AT&T 5G. Fast, reliable, secure.
5G requires compatible plan and device. 5G may not be available in your area. See att.com/5G for you for details.
Back to the break.
AT&T connecting changes everything.
Welcome back. Final segment of the break, live from the SWBC Mortgage Studios at the Star, presented by LG. We are going to continue our breakdown of the Cowboys defense versus the Saints offense. My first question for you guys was, they didn't really move Micah around a ton in this last game. Is this a matchup where you expect him to move around a little bit, for them to move him around a little bit more and maybe take advantage of some mismatches in certain areas?
Was there 3 spots he went to? He was left, in,
right, yeah.
left, right, and then he played inside, right?
Not a lot, though. Not a lot inside, right?
No. But, I mean, there were times where he was inside and Nealon was outside.
Yeah. Okay, got it.
I mean, okay, so what other spots can he move to?
Linebacker?
Well, okay, yeah, you could play him as an A-gap linebacker.
Yep. Do you need him to?
You don't necessarily.
No, I was just asking because I was wondering when they say move him around, I like what they did with him and Lawrence on the same side.
Yep.
I like that. That was a right side thing.
Yep.
And then I like what they did with him just naturally on the left side, which is something that, they put Tank on the right side, put him on the left side. And that seems like, oh, wow, you're a little bit better maybe defending the run over there. We always worry about the Cowboys at the right end and being able to defend the run, even though Nealon did a pretty good job over there. I just wonder how many other spots can they move him to?
Well, according to both Micah and
Zimmer,
there's
spots.
They're there's more. We got a lot more we can do.
Yeah.
But I agree with you. I mean, I think you could look at an A-gap blitz at linebacker. You maybe could look at a stand-up outside guy. Maybe I don't know.
That's what I'm saying. It would be he was hand down. They had Tank inside, him outside. You can maybe put him inside, put Tank outside. Right. But I was just trying to think. We saw in training camp where they had Kendricks playing as the mug or right at the line of scrimmage, right there in the A gap.
Yep.
They had Mike in the other A gap, but they had him at depth.
Yep.
And maybe they even played him a little bit where they shaded him behind Kendricks.
Right.
And then all of a sudden he was shown like he was A gap guy, and he ended up in the C gap on the outside, and he came on, and then you pick him up. And it's like they lost him in like the snap. He walks up and then just ran around, and then the line was trying to deal with the blitz. They think
he may come up the middle.
And they just squeeze. Yeah. And now what happens? It gets him around the corner, and then Dak was like, "Oh, damn." Okay, I thought I had you accounted for, but he was in a stack position. I guess that's something that we could see, or they can mug him with Kendricks at right there.
Yep, A and B.
So,
yep.
Yeah, so I just was curious, how many other places could they play him?
Maybe safety.
Hey,
one of the sacks they got, the Kendrick sack, was him playing. They had him and then they dropped him and Tank, and they brought Lewis on the blitz.
Yeah.
So maybe they could play, but I think he's going to always be outside, inside, stack guy, maybe detached guy. It's a nice thing. Oh yeah, we've got a lot of other places we can make Micah. Can you rush him from the bench? Can you rush him?
Well, see,
corner blitz.
I love that they have the ability. And they're in a position to actually allow him to do those kinds of things, because I think that him being able to play at different positions allows him to be more explosive. It just fits his type of personality. I think it allows him, and I remember at some point, one of the shows we did, Derek, you brought the type of personality that he is, and all you have to look at is the type of things that he does during the off season, wrestling, basketball, this and that. So it keeps him, I think, more into the game, and it prevents him to remember, was it last year maybe, or 2 years ago? Maybe. I don't remember, when we were talking about how his worst enemy can be his mental self, where he can get his head, he can get frustrated. And I think this scheming him in that way, it fits him perfect. And I think it just keeps him more fresh, and it puts him in a better position overall to keep trying. And after that game where he was like, yes, he was happy with everybody, but him wanting to have more sacks and things like that, I can see this being an opportunity for him to exploit that and actually get to the quarterback a lot more.
Yeah, I ran into Isaiah Stanback on the way when he was coming out. I was coming in, and they did an interview with him.
Yeah, they interviewed him yesterday.
Yeah, and he was talking about
on the NFL Network.
Yeah, on the NFL Network, and he was talking about that Mike Zimmer gives him freedom for some of the call stuff. When they feel like that Mike has it kind of built in. I'd be interested to ask Zim. I'm like, hey, man, are we bluffing here? Or is he really giving him freedom? I'm sure because the talent of the player, he's saying, okay, listen, I'm going to call this, but if you're going to adjust it, this is what we're going to have to do. This is maybe why they're spending a lot of time together. Mike's explaining, listen, when I make this call, this is what I need from you. But if you feel like you can get home standing up in the A gap or playing the C gap, wherever you feel like, because if you do play that, now Mike's got to adjust for everybody else. We always talk about traveling. Remember the story about, oh, hey, is Diggs going to travel? Yeah, Diggs is going to travel. But what happens when you travel? Yeah. Everybody else has to change up what they're doing. If you play things the same, if you play it pretty standard, everybody's fine. travel a guy now. Safety has to do this. Other corner has to do this. Linebacker has to do this. You just got to make sure, and I think that's where Micah, and you mentioned the challenge that Micah has, the buy-in with Zim. If Zim is going to allow him to have that kind of autonomy to do what he needs to do, then he needs.
I think they have the perfect relationship. They have such a good
week
relationship.
One they do.
Yeah. Right. So far, so good. But
Yeah.
I think it's just the level of respect, and I think trust.
Yeah.
Comes into play as well. And I think what everybody else is doing around him, that everyone knows their job. It's not getting confusing.
Yeah.
Everyone knows exactly what they're doing and how to adjust. Despite all these younger players being in there, they're staying up to date on whatever is going on. So I got to give credit to a lot of those young guys that they're just keeping up with everything.
I think that the addition of Kendricks really is helping this defense.
In a lot of ways.
Week one, I'm just going to say that because
He's so good.
Communication, being on the same page. You look at Overshone, Leofel, I think with the snaps he got, smart guy. You don't really worry about him. Clark, when Clark played, the best thing that happened to Clark was that number 50 showed up.
Yeah.
Because number 50 could say, all right, man, get ready here. Oh, formation, and now Clark can go be a football player.
Yep.
Clark doesn't have to think, oh my gosh, what's happening in front of me right now? He could go be a football player. So Zimmer, Parsons could be whatever they want to do. The guy that kind of keeps everything together, I think, is Kendricks. That kind of has, and then you got smart guy. We were talking about Lewis playing in the slot. Lewis knows what he has to do. That's a difficult job he has. He's kind of on an island by himself playing out there. So, if you got smart guys, we talked about it when Zimmer got hired. Zimmer's going to play smart guys. Zimmer, if you're not doing the right things, you're making mistakes, you'll be standing over by us over there on the sidelines.
All right, give me a scouting report on what you saw from Mozzie Smith in this last game.
I thought Mozzie Smith was a positive player. I didn't think he was a negative. There's times where Mozzie Smith is a negative player. He's a negative in a way that he hurts your defense. Mozzie didn't hurt your defense in this game. I think he got 20 snaps in this game. The positive snaps, the ability to stay square. We always talk about that with defensive linemen. If you see the 5 and the 8, if Mozzie from the TV copy, he's having a bad day. Because if you see his number, that means he's getting turned. He's
on the side,
He's usually getting washed. I thought he played with power. I thought in the early snaps he played with some quickness. I thought he got off the ball well. There was a couple of times where he reverted back to, you watch the tape, hand on the ground, everybody's moving. Mozzie, got to move, Mozzie. So, but it wasn't 20 negative plays or where all of a sudden you're watching him play. He played 20 plays because he was playing well. He was playing well, and now I feel sad to say that the numbers didn't show that, but if you watch how the technique of how he played. And they asked him what they asked him to do, much better at that.
I thought he played okay, but something that I was very curious to see heading into week one, given everything that we saw during training camp, and help me out with the coach's name. I can never pronounce his name.
Jeff Zugina.
It's
probably not.
I just call him the defensive line coach.
Yeah.
Coach Z.
You know how tough that guy is. We've talked about it.
Oh, he was on Mozzie from the word
nonstop.
I had to leave the premises because
you were uncomfortable.
It was one of those situations that either you're like, you know what? I'm done with this. Quit talking to me like that, Derek. Okay? I'll walk out or we're going to have a fight over here. But it wasn't like, so I was just very curious to see how he would handle that mental part of it, because it can either make you or break you. And sometimes getting somebody yelling at you constantly, it gets into your head. And I think he handled the game much better than I expected, given what he had to go through all throughout training camp.
There were times where training camp was rough for him.
Absolutely.
And like I said, I was watching from the platform and I had to walk away because I felt like I don't want to watch this anymore. I mean, I felt for the point of, they worked hard. I mean, in Mozzie, he could have broke. He could have broke.
Yeah.
I think when he looks at this tape, he's going to see himself in a better light. Is it what you need right now? Yeah, in a rotation with guys, yeah, you can win. Be a positive player. Don't be a negative player. Don't be a liability. When you play 20 snaps, 15 of them be a positive player.
Make them count.
Make them count.
All right, that's a wrap. We will be back tomorrow. We'll start talking Cowboys offense versus Saints defense. Till then, for Brian Broaddus, Amber Garcia, I'm Derek Eagleton. This has been The Break, live on DallasCowboys.com radio.
This has been a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about this, Cowboys? Yeah!